Welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 to the road to becoming a Pokemon champion. Chapter 3, the beating of lifelong partners. Everyone stared at the Pokemon that had come out of the Pokeball. They certainly were not expecting a Pikachu to come out. In turn, Pikachu stared uncertainly at everyone around it. It didn't quite know what to make of the situation. What it did know was one raven-haired boy was standing a little too close for its liking, though. Ash was the first one to give any real reaction, and his face broke out into a wide grin. He then leaned forward to get a little closer. "Hello, Pikachu. My name is Ash Ketchum. I heard that you had bad experiences with people and distrust them, but I promise you I'm not like that. I'm going to treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Will you give me a chance?" Pikachu continued to stare at Ash. It didn't believe this kid for 1 second. It's heard that one before. It heard how people had said they would be nice to it, only to abuse it the first chance they got. Pikachu then promptly turned its back on Ash with a low tone to emphasize that it didn't want anything to do with a. Gary Oak then gave a smirk as he crossed his arms. "What's the matter, Ashy boy? Can't you even make your first Pokemon trust you? I guess I can say that's to be expected. I don't know what Gramps was thinking trying to give you a Pikachu like that." Leaf and Serena then glared at Gary. "Ugh. Gary, you can be such a jerk sometimes. Let's see you try to become friends with it," Leaf defended. Gary shrugged. "I'm only saying that Pikachu isn't for some run-off-the-mill rookie like Ash. You know he will be miserable with that thing." Ash decided he would try again. "Don't listen to Gary, Pikachu. I personally think you are so great that you are the best of all. I couldn't be happier to receive you as my first Pokemon." Ash then reached out to try to give Pikachu a reassuring touch on its back. However, it proved to be a huge mistake. "Wait, Ash. Be careful," or Professor Oak tried to warn, but it was too late. As soon as Pikachu felt Ash's hand against it, it let out a loud cry and gave off a powerful thunder shock. The bolt engulfed Ash in electricity and caused the other people and Pokemon to hit the floor in an attempt to block the attack. "Wow. That was a powerful thunder shock," Ash mumbled, a little dazed once Pikachu finished. "Ash, are you okay?" Serena asked worriedly as she and everyone else stood up again. "Yeah. I think so," Ash muttered. "Geez, Ash. Watch what you're doing. That Pikachu is a danger to everyone. You need to get that thing back into its Pokeball before something worse happens," Gary exclaimed with an angry look on his face. "I'm afraid I have to agree with Gary on this one, Ash. Let me put Pikachu back into its Pokeball, and I can try to find another Pokemon for you," Professor Oak said as he picked up Pikachu's Pokeball. Pikachu looked at the ball fearfully. It hated being inside Pokeballs. It just received freedom, and it was already going back in. "No. Wait, Professor. It's fine," Ash stepped in, before he then turned to Pikachu. "Sorry about that, Pikachu. I shouldn't have reached out and startled you like that. That was my fault. I'll try to be more careful from now on. Do you forgive me?" That got Pikachu's attention. It was expecting Ash to hit it, or at least be very angry and yell at it for shocking him, but he was doing just the opposite. He wasn't bothered by it at all, and was even apologizing to it, and wanted its forgiveness. Maybe this human wasn't as bad as it originally thought. Pikachu still didn't trust Ash, but it decided to give him a break. It turned around to face Ash, and nodded its head, signaling it at least forgave Ash. "That's great. Thanks, Pikachu," Ash replied gratefully before he continued. "Maybe we could start over. I really would like to be the trainer and friend to a great Pokemon like you. Just give me one day. If you decide you don't want anything to do with me after that, you can go, and I won't try to stop you. What do you say? Want to give this partnership a chance?" Ash then extended his hand to Pikachu in a gesture of friendship, but Pikachu hesitated. Surely Ash didn't expect it to be buddies with him, just because he apologized and was forgiven. On the other hand, he did seem genuine and said that it could leave after a day with no questions, asked if it didn't like him. After giving it some thought, Pikachu decided it could give Ash a single chance. It didn't accept Ash's hand, but it still nodded its head. Pikachu then curled its hands into fists and sparked its cheeks, letting Ash know that it still had its guard up. Taking the hint, Ash decided Pikachu still wasn't ready for him to be too close to it, yet unless he wanted to get another thunder shock, but that still didn't stop Ash from grinning broadly. Thanks, Pikachu. I understand. I won't try to touch you anymore until you are ready. In the meantime, would you please get inside the Pokeball? I want to take you to my house to introduce you to my mom, Ash requested. Pikachu. Pikachu cried while it frantically shook its head and waved its arms back and forth. It couldn't stand being in Pokeballs, and it would be darned if this kid thought he could get it to go back inside of one. Oh. You don't like Pokeballs, Pikachu? Ash asked in concern. Pikachu shook its head again. It then crouched down in a tight ball and closed its eyes, letting Ash know that it thought Pokeballs were cramped and dark, which scared it. If that's the case, Pikachu, then you don't have to go in. You can just stay outside and walk beside me. How does that sound? Ash amended and gave Pikachu a smile. Pikachu was actually impressed. Ash was even not making it get into a Pokeball. This kid was just full of surprises. Maybe it wasn't going to be so bad after all. Are you kidding me? Ash, if you can't get that thing to even get inside of its Pokeball, then it's going to walk all over you. Keep that up, and pretty soon it will be the Pikachu that's training you. Gary said, glaring at Ash. Now, Gary. That remark was uncalled for, Professor Oak scolded, before he turned to Ash. I do agree with what Gary said on one point, however. Are you sure having Pikachu outside the Pokeball is a good idea? If Pikachu doesn't want to be in a Pokeball, then it doesn't have to, Ash replied firmly. Professor Oak studied Ash carefully. He had his doubts, but perhaps giving Ash this Pikachu was the right move, after all. He knew how much Ash cared for Pokemon, and had always sensed something special in the boy. He had no doubt that these two would accomplish many great things together. Serena was thinking likewise. She was super lucky that she got a Pokemon as friendly as Charla. If she had wound up with Pikachu, she didn't think she could handle it. Ash, on the other hand, was so forgiving and never gave up. Those were just a couple of the many qualities that she liked about him. Well, Ash, I will trust your judgment, Professor Oak relented, before he turned towards the table and pushed another button on it. I would like to go ahead and give you all your Pokédexes now. The platform that had Pikachu's Pokeball on it lowered back into the table. It was soon replaced as a different platform rose out. On it were 4 red rectangular devices about the size of a calculator with many different buttons and a small screen. Professor Oak picked up the machines and handed one to each of the 4 trainers. These devices are your Pokédexes. They will be used to record and give you any information about the Pokemon you may encounter on your journey. As soon as you see one you haven't come across yet, make sure to open up the Pokédex to get its information. I have spent almost my whole adult life studying Pokemon, but I'm getting on in years, and can't do field research like I used to. If you manage to fill up the Pokédex with every known Pokemon, I will have a special award for you. The 4 kids nodded, signifying they understood, especially Leaf. Hey, Gramps. If we are done here, I'd like to go ahead and start my journey. My cheerleaders are waiting in the car, Gary spoke up, returning Squirtle to its Pokeball. Wait a second, Gary. You have cheerleaders? Ash exclaimed. Of course, Ash. They're going to follow me around and see what a real trainer from Pallet Town is like. Not that I would expect you to have any fans, except for those two. Gary sneered and gestured to Leaf and Serena with his thumb, causing them both to blush. Seeing Ash's angry expression, Gary's sneer turned into a genuine smile. Hey, I was just kidding, Ashy boy. Despite the things I said, I really do wish you luck in your journey and training that Pikachu. Just at least try to keep up with me, he said. Yeah. Thanks, Gary. You, too, Ash replied, rather surprised that his biggest rival was actually wishing him luck. Gary then turned to Leaf and Serena. The same goes for you too, also. Leaf, as much as you love to explore, I believe you'll have no trouble filling up that Pokédex. Serena, I expect to see amazing things from you too. You will be a great Pokémon trainer, and be ready for the Indigo League in no time. Yeah. Thanks, Gary, Serena said nervously. Only her mother and Leaf knew that Serena hadn't chosen her goal yet. Sure, she liked Pokémon battles, but she still couldn't understand why so many people thought she was going to compete in the Indigo League over everything else. Gary then turned to leave. Well, I'm out of here. Hey, Gramps. Tell my family I said bye. I'll give them a call when I get to Viridian. Then, with a small wave, he walked out of the room. We should probably be leaving as well. I promised my mom that I would stop by before I left, Leaf suggested before she turned to Bulbasaur. Are you ready, Bulbasaur? The grass Pokémon nodded in response. It was ready for adventure just like its trainer. Yeah. I have to go by my house also, Serena spoke up. Alright. Let's all walk back together, Ash suggested and then turned to Pikachu. Hey, Pikachu. I'm going home to introduce you to my mom. I promise you that she isn't a bad person. Are you ready? Pikachu pondered on that for just a moment. The boy seemed okay so far, so that must mean his mom can't be that bad of a person either. Pika, it replied, nodding its head. Okay. Let's go. Ash said enthusiastically as he pumped his fist into the air. As the trio and their Pokémon left the room, they waved goodbye to Professor Oak. Take care of yourselves, you hear? Keep in touch, the professor called after them. We will, they answered. As they neared the exit to the lab, Ash turned to Leaf and Serena. Do you two think it's true what Gary said about having cheerleaders in a car? He questioned. He had to be bluffing. You know how cocky he can get. No 10-year-old should be able to have their own car and personal fan club just like that, Serena answered. Once they opened the door, they were met with a whole bunch of noise and cheering. On the side of the road in front of Professor Oak's lab, they saw at least a dozen cheerleaders, complete with the uniform, who were chanting Gary's name again and again. There were also at least 100 fellow residents of Pallet Town in a line cheering just as hard. Beside them, parked on the side of the road, was a flashy red convertible. Gary. Gary. He's the best. Gary. Gary. Beats the rest, they cheered as Gary passed them and got in the car. As soon as he was in, all the cheerleaders piled in behind him, which made a really tight fit. The cheerleader that would be driving the car then turned it on and sped off down the road. Some of the people in the crowd dispersed while others chased after the vehicle. Ash, Serena, Leaf, and their Pokémon stood dumbfounded for a moment before sweat dropped. Never mind. Serena mumbled. Hey, Mom. I'm back. Ash called as he and Pikachu entered his house. I'm in the kitchen, sweetie. I'm just finishing up with the dishes. Delia answered back. Ash then knelt down, so he was eye level with Pikachu. Okay, Pikachu. I promise you my mother is a good person, but if she tries to hold you, I have to ask you to save your Thunder Shock for me and not her. Deal, he requested. Pikachu figured that as acceptable and nodded. Pie, it replied. Then they walked into the kitchen, just as Delia was stacking the last plate in the cabinet. She was still in her white apron and yellow rubber gloves, and had her back turned to him. So what kind of Pokemon did you end up getting? Delia asked as she took off her gloves and began wiping her hands. I got the best one of them all, Mom. A Pikachu. Ash stated proudly. You got a Pikachu? I thought the starters were Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle, Ash's mom said in confusion, before she turned around to face Ash and Pikachu. They are, but they were already chosen by Serena, Leaf, and Gary since I volunteered to go last. So then Professor Oak decided to give me this Pikachu. He told me that it had been abused in the past and trusted me to care for it and be its trainer, Ash replied. Oh, okay then, Delia replied before she then walked across kitchen to Pikachu and knelt down to give Pikachu a kind smile. Hello there, Pikachu. Pikachu tilted its head to the side and stared curiously at Delia. It could already sense that this also wasn't a bad human at all. She had a very kind and caring wave around her, the same one it could feel with Ash. It finally gave a smile back at Delia. Pikachu, it responded and gave Delia a wave with one of its small arms. AWW, you are a cutie, aren't you? Delia smiled as she reached out to rub Pikachu's head. Ash watched the scene nervously. The previous incident, when Pikachu was touched without permission, was still fresh in his mind. He hoped Pikachu would be able to keep its promise not to shock his mom. Ash braced himself for what might be a nasty scene, but to his great relief, Pikachu didn't shock Delia when she began to rub its head. Pikachu even seemed to be enjoying it. Chaya, Pikachu cooed under Delia's soft touch. HMM. Delia chuckled softly as she finished. She then stood up and faced her son. Alright, Ash. I've already got you packed up. I've got a backpack full of some things you may need for your journey, she told him as she walked out of the kitchen into the living room, her son and Pikachu following her. Once they entered the living room, Delia walked over to the couch where a green backpack with several pockets and zippers was laying on top of it. She picked it up and turned to face Ash. Okay, sweetie. I just want to go over some of the things I packed for you before you set out, she requested. Sure, Mom, Ash replied. He wasn't prepared for the barrage of things his mom was about to list. Here, she began, I have a fresh change of clothes if your current ones get dirty. I packed a few snacks in case you get hungry. I packed a jacket in case you get cold. Here is your sleeping bag since I imagine you will be sleeping outside some nights. Here are some nice rubber gloves and a water keg so you can do your laundry and dishes. Here is a thermometer so you can take your temperature. I also got Tylenol, cough syrup, your toothbrush and toothpaste, a few bars of soap, and... Mom. Okay. I get it. Thanks a lot. Ash cried as Pikachu watched curiously. Ash knew only a mom would be able to pack all those things in such a small backpack. Well, alright. I trust you, Delia sighed. She then gazed sadly at her son. She really would miss him while he was gone. She began to tear up. Oh, Ash. I'm going to miss you. Delia cried as she embraced her son. I'll miss you too, Mom, Ash replied as he returned the hug. Pikachu watched the heartwarming scene with interest. These two humans were not like any it had ever met before. They really did seem caring and friendly. Despite all the bad humans it had encountered in the past, these two had shown that there are good humans, after all. Ash and Delia soon let go, and stared at each other for a moment longer before Ash spoke up. I gotta get going, Mom. I promised Serena and Leaf I would meet them at the street corner, so we could say our goodbyes before leaving. Are you ready, Pikachu? Pika, it said, nodding its head. I understand. You wouldn't mind if I saw you off, would you? Ash's mom asked hopefully. Of course not, Mom. Let's go. Ash replied before he put on his backpack and walked out the door, followed by Delia and Pikachu. Ash, Delia, and Pikachu stepped outside and began walking toward the street. Ash turned around and paused. He wanted to take one last look at his home for 10 years before he began his journey. He had so many great memories here. The aroma of his mother's cooking, his cozy room. He would miss it all. Ash? Delia questioned, noticing her son's almost sad expression. Nothing, Mom. I'm fine, Ash answered. He then closed his eyes and turned around, continuing on his way. As Ash, Delia, and Pikachu were approaching the street corner, they could see Serena and Leaf were already waiting for them. Leaf had brought her bike. She was clearly going to use it for quicker travel on her journey. They likewise had their mothers as well, Grace, Serena's mom, and Rose, Leaf's mom. All four waved when they caught sight of them. It's about time you got here, Ash. Do you know how long we've been waiting? Leaf asked playfully with her hands on her hips. Sorry, Ash chuckled. I just wanted to have one last look around my house before I left. I won't be here for a while, after all. Now you aren't going to get homesick, are you? As a Pokemon trainer, you have to stay strong, Leaf said firmly. Oh really? As if you won't miss home, Rose interrupted her daughter. You were crying in my arms for 3 minutes at our house just now. Leaf was almost an exact copy of her mother. The only real difference was Rose's hair was darker, and she had a different shade of brown to her eyes than Leaf's. Mom. Leaf cried in embarrassment, turning beet red and causing the others to laugh. So are we all ready to part ways? Ash asked the group once they finished laughing. Yeah. I think I'm. But, Leaf responded. Serena wasn't ready, however. She had no idea where to even begin for this journey. She still didn't know what she wanted to do, and she was about to be away from everyone who had given her support so far. She knew if she went by herself, she would never succeed at this. She knew her mother was afraid of this happening. Perhaps if she, Ash, and Leaf traveled together, they would be able to support each other, and she could find inspiration along the way. Not to mention she would miss her friends, particularly Ash, if she was alone. Hey, guys, Serena spoke up nervously, which grabbed their attention. What if we went on this journey together? That way, we could still be together and support each other. She hoped they would agree. That would be great, Serena. Ash exclaimed, much to her relief. He then turned to Pikachu. Hey Pikachu, does that sound okay to you? We can have more friends, so we aren't by ourselves. Pikachu. Pikachu agreed. Both Serena and Leaf seemed to be okay. It decided it could tolerate them there, as long as Ash was around. Oh, that's a wonderful idea. Grace added and clapped her hands together. Delia and Rose agreed. Leaf. Are you in? Ash asked, turning to her. Leaf looked nervously at the ground, and shuffled her feet. Actually, as fun as that sounds, I really want to do this journey by myself. I feel that, if I can explore all of Kanto, and go at my own pace, I can get more out of the experience. Well, you are definitely my daughter, Rose said with a smile. Always being independent. Oh, that's too bad, Ash replied in a disappointed tone, but he then brightened a little. I guess it's just you and me, Serena. Serena nodded. She may not be able to travel with Leaf, but at least she will have Ash. Just she and Ash. Her crush. Traveling. Together. Serena's cheeks turned red at thought. Serena? Are you okay? Ash asked in an unsure tone, causing the others in the group to facepalm. Typical young boy response. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get going, Leaf spoke up, which drew the attention back to her. She gave her mom one last hug, before having a group hug with Ash and Serena. Their parents smiled at how close they all were. Now Serena. You better keep me up to date with how Ash is. If he ever treats you poorly, just let me know. I'll take care of him. Leaf said playfully with a wink. Hee hee, don't worry, I will, Serena giggled. I wouldn't dream of it. Ash replied with a smile, before turned to Serena. We are going to have a blast, aren't we? Absolutely. Serena agreed. Leaf then got on her bike. Well, I'll see all of you later. Take care, and keep in touch. With a final wave, she was off. Everyone continued to watch Leaf until she disappeared around a corner. Ash then turned to Serena. Hey. We should get going as well, he said. Yeah, Serena answered. She then gave one last hug to her mom. Bye, Mom. Goodbye, dear, Grace responded and leaned over to whisper in her daughter's ear. I know you'll figure out what you want to do. I have faith in you. Thanks, Mom, Serena replied gratefully. And good luck with Ash, too, Grace whispered again before pulling away and looking at her daughter mischievously, which caused Serena to turn red again. Ash then gave Delia another hug. I'll miss you, Mom, he said. Me too. Make sure you two keep in touch with us, Delia replied as they pulled away. Don't worry. We will, Ash nodded and turned to Serena. Well, are you ready? Serena gave a nod, and Ash then shifted his attention to Pikachu. Pikachu, what about you? He asked this time. Pikachu confirmed. Now Ash, Grace said seriously, getting his attention. I want you to look out for Serena for me. I want you to make sure she stays safe. Can I trust you with that? Absolutely. I won't let you down, Mrs. Gabina. Ash nodded. Then with a final nod to their parents and Rose, they turned around and began to walk away. Here we go, Serena thought. I'm really nervous right now. I may not know what I want at the moment, but I soon will. I can do it. I have Ash and Charla with me, after all. I'll make them, and my mother proud. And maybe along the way Serena gave quick glance at Ash and blushed, but he was too busy looking ahead to notice. Ash had his own thoughts that were going through his mind as well. This is it. I'm going to be the very best, like no one ever was. Pikachu and I will make an amazing team. Together with it and Serena, I can overcome any obstacle. Look out, world. Ash was really pumped. He had been waiting for this day a long time. Now he was going to show the world what he was made of. Nothing was going to stop him now. He was excited. He was ready. He was determined. He felt powerful. He was don't forget to change your you-know-whats every day, honey. Delia called after him. Ash fell over in embarrassment.